And we are live. Tom Cassidy in the house, Ruth Howard also in her house. We are on other sides of this incredible planet, and we're talking about some very interesting things. We're going to do a fairly short one. So Ruth, why don't you just crack on with what's on your mind?
Okay. Well, I've just come back from hanging out with a group of people who are totally passionate about getting the word out about climate change, but they're also passionate. They're called the Australian Conservation Foundation, but
Right.
well, that's the umbrella group, and they link into a no nuclear platform, so they'll work with that as well. They work on a whole lot of fronts, right? They're an environmental group, and they're very on the ground with a lot of projects. So the one that I was pulled into was specific for making sure that our laws are retained around the current climate policy, which the new government wants to throw out. And what I found out was that there's a really strong culture of climate skepticism inside the Australian Parliament. And so that culture is, it's creating a particular situation. And inside of all of that, I had training so that I could go and deliver my petition and speak directly to ministers and people that I've never spoken to before who are at a fairly high level very high level in government. So it was a really unique experience. And what I noticed was I was working with people who are much more deeply involved than I am. They do it for their work, and within the range of things, and I noticed it inside Parliament House as well, people are believing in what they're doing, but then they've got this amazing, from all sorts of forces, push against them, and people burn out. I mean, I've experienced my own version of it, okay, and not that long ago, and I'm still in that process of moving forward and into what I know I'm capable of energetically. And so I'm really I'm going, well, there it all is. I couldn't identify with it, Tom. I was really identified with them, with being an activist. I'm totally aligned, and I had a lot of compassion for people that are in Parliament, and I'm not into bagging anybody there. And I was like, well, why not put into the sausage machine what you really like? They are visionary people. They are the visionary people. They're creating, because they're working. When I say that, some of them are the political people, and some of them are activists, and they're one and the same. They're just different ways of doing it, but it's all a lot of theatrics. And I'm thinking a lot about just the way it could be delivered to them. I could deliver them specifically around, what's helpful, what would you choose? This is your vision. What are you putting in? And when you approach somebody, are you coming from awareness, or are you coming from antagonism and damning?
Is it antagonistic?
They're your partners, but you're already talking in a war room language. And I just was like, no, I can't really identify with this. I did this when I was a young woman, and I realized then that I was too angry. I was too angry, and I stopped doing that, activism at that level. This week I wasn't angry, and it was useful, and it was helpful, and I really appreciate but I could just see that there's a whole dynamic there that I left behind, and I don't want to go back into. And so I was like, wow, this is so obvious to me, this part of it. It was great being an outsider, Tom, right? And I'm trying to say, well, that's the culture inside there. How do you, as an outsider, it's quite a good thing to be an outsider.
Yeah. It sounds like what you're thinking of is creating a program like reasonable activism or effective activism or something like that. Like kind of almost like taking the principles that we're teaching and the principles of, say, more of a Buddhist or sort of monistic approach, which is, you know, the middle way, not your way or my way, but, you know, could we work together to create a middle way, for example, and just put that into a system of useful and helpful thought algorithms and how to come across algorithms, interaction. Yeah, okay. The closest one that I've got already is probably a combination of reasonable doubt and reasonable change, which is, you know, if you want to create change, there's obviously a reasonable way to do it, and then there's a way which just doesn't work, which is by putting all the energy on the, you know, in the confrontation and the antagonistic way. But I think obviously it's something that itself could stand. If you want to change the world, you know, there's ways to do it, and there's ways that are degenerative, that are just going to get people angry and annoyed and use up all the resources in an antagonistic way, or there's a way to do it which is probably a lot more synergetic and regenerative. So you're onto something with that. I mean, I'd be happy to help develop a program with you that would work, that you could lead on. You know what the issues are.
Great.
And we could, you know, I mean, really, you probably know already, but effectively what would be really nice to do is say, look, if we do want to create change, we can't be repelling people, because if we repel other humans, like the liver isn't going to get any better by repelling the heart. Right? We're all the same thing, and the fact that the heart is operating in a way that we don't necessarily think is good for the body as a whole, you know,
yeah.
So I think you're onto something. What would it look like when it's completed and when it's working well for you?
That's a really good question, and I don't know, because I haven't been at the front line for, you know, quite a while. I mean, I'm around people that are doing that, and it's not hard to sort of jump back in and have a good look. Well, you know, relatively. I'd have to get some help there. I'd have to, you know, find other people to collaborate with to get it really clear what they need, you know, which would be a good thing, you know, that would be the way to do it, not to assume anything. And as you know, right, with every industry, every 2 years it's being reinvented all the time.
Yeah.
So
so what would be nice is to have a principle-based approach, which would be, you know, if you want, perhaps if you look at any movements that have been successful compared to ones that haven't, distill the essence of what they are, you know, and probably what we'll find is that ones that were patient, ones that allowed willingness of the other party to change, a time to grow and to develop, one that focused on a non-judgmental way of educating people. I love that link you sent, by the way, about the open source everything. The guy, Mr. Steele, in the
amazing, so good. You know, I just made that up, Tom. I just made that up the other day. I know I didn't really make it up, right? You know,
it's downloaded through you, yeah.
I never heard of it before, but I just thought, well, this is the natural thing, isn't it? Like, and isn't energy free? I mean, energy is free. That's reality.
Yeah. And you're right. The two things that are going to change in the future, that are inevitable, and it's just a question of time scale. One is free energy for everybody, and the other is humans not working for other humans. Those two things are going to happen. We will all work, but in the same way. Yeah, but the work that we do will be the same work as, I'm looking at my baby Theo, and he is doing such unbelievably complex physical work in his development, but he's doing it just totally naturally without effort. So it'll be work without. It's only when we try to work for other humans, and kind of against the natural principles, that we have to do effort. The plant doesn't have to put any effort in to grow. A seed, it just does its stuff. It knows what to do and it grows. So that will happen. What time scale? Who knows? But if we're saying, look, we know that this is inevitable, you can either help us quicken the pace of this, or you can fight against it because you're trying to maintain the political status quo. It's okay. We're okay with whatever you do. It doesn't really matter. It's just that we think that when you look back in 50 years' time or 100 years' time over your contribution, we think you'll be more proud of working towards creating a world that works for everybody than kind of, you know, what you're doing at the moment. And that sort of sow the seeds of possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I reckon I'd have to do some groundwork just to talk to other people, what they're thinking. And there'll
Mm.
be a lot of examples as well, about what's worked. But what I noticed was I was there with a UN negotiator. He was one of the guys, one of the delegates. I mean, I just had these amazing delegates with me. He's worked for 10 years on climate change, and he was there in Copenhagen, right, with
Yeah.
every world leader that was, when every, I think it was like, I don't know, it was 2007, but,
Yeah.
that was when it was the big agenda
Yeah.
at the UN, and they were all there, and he was right there negotiating, and it was very interesting just to see what that means, because I haven't been in rooms with negotiators as such,
Yeah.
and I just, every time he approached the politicians, he had this way, and I learned a lot just by being in the sort of room with him and just listening to the way he spoke, um, and the words he said, and he was extremely flattering, and when I say he was very, he had an affinity and an empathy. He was cultivating affinity and empathy all the time. All with his speech and his body and everything. He was constantly doing that. It was fascinating to watch. He's
Mm.
really high energy lawyer, and he brought his little girl with him as well. He
Oh,
brought
really?
her. Yeah, she's 4, so she
Wow.
was the ninth delegate. It was very
Yes.
cool.
Are you still in touch with him then? Are you going to be in touch with
I
him?
am. Yeah.
Because these people
Mm.
extending our reach through people with increasing influence is always good. One of the things that I think is the problem as a physicist and
Mm.
as a logician, just looking at the logic of it, I think we're focusing on the wrong things. I think we're focusing on climate change, where climate change for me isn't the issue. And
Yeah.
even, and you talked about this actually, climate change, whether you can prove it or not, you don't think is as much of a big deal as the fact that what we're doing now isn't working because we're creating pollution and all that sort of stuff.
That's
Right?
it. That's it. I mean, I was pulled in order to be part of a delegation to do a
Yeah.
specific task, which was, look, we need these climate laws to stay in place, because once you pull them out, they're actually pulling out all the renewable energy stuff as well. They've
Yeah.
got all this beautiful, the clean energy, finance corporation, which puts money in to
Yeah.
renewables, and it's just crazy to pull out. You're going to pull out the price on pollution, but you're going to also pull out all the renewables funding.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like it's a stack of cards that doesn't need. It's in all of them are a necessary part until you put something better. And the proposal that's better is not better at all. It's direct action is it's not the right solution. So I was coming from that place
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
an extra voice. But I agree. For me, to be honest, I'm with you. I'm actually not, but I could see, but it was really good because I'm not sort of, climate change is the big fear bug. I
Yeah.
don't feel that way. I recognise that it's partly likely a natural cycle, but however, we should be acting on the signs for risk management. We should be doing things, putting things in place, regardless of whether we believe it's this or that. We should be putting in,
Yeah.
everything in place. It's just basic governance, is risk management and putting in insurance. And I see a renewable investment in renewables as, an insurance policy in itself.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's pollution that's the problem. Water, air, earth. It's why would you argue about climate change and have the whole world meanwhile just getting more and more polluted? I mean, it's so
But
obvious.
we know
Why?
why. I know the answer to that because if someone wants to maintain the status quo because it happens to be in their interest of profitability, what they need to do is they need to limit the debate to things which are at least
Impossible.
Yeah, and questionable, and they say, okay, if we can get everyone talking about climate change
Mm.
and then say
Mm.
that we don't really know and that the science isn't that strong in it, then
Yeah,
it's a technique of misdirection. Now,
it is.
it may be an unconscious decision, but it works in the interests of the people who are trying to maintain the status quo to focus on the science behind climate change, whether or not, because what you've got at the moment is you've got a lot of people who find it now convenient to distrust the scientific worldview, which is that climate change is happening, right? But
Yep.
okay, so this is so I say you go beyond that. You don't even
Yep.
talk about pollution either. I think because
Right.
well, again, because pollution is
Well,
something that you can
it's
measure.
not the solution, is it?
Correct, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a solution. So what I say is
And
this.
that's why, yeah, totally. I'm really want to. That's why I'm wanting to do something specifically for these NGOs, because they've always got to look down the barrel of the gun, and they're seeing the problems all the time. And if there was a way to turn this around for them, it'd be so powerful. They're really intelligent people, and they would turn it around in a way that they would take it much further than I could even think of it.
I think you're right, and I think if we can just sow the seeds of possibility thinking and visualization about what we want, and then talk to them about how that'll probably work much better. There is one thing though that's really specific, and this is my perspective, is that climate change is just a distraction. Even pollution is just a distraction. The only sense of the matter is this. The sense of the matter is this. The planet is however it is, and we've got effectively two ways to operate. We can either run ourselves and our planet and all our industries on energy savings, which is things that the Earth has built and put together over millions of years, or we
Mm.
can run our entire operation on energy income. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter whether the effect of running off energy savings is going to cause climate change. It doesn't matter whether it's going to cause pollution. But if you are building your entire industry and your operation on using up your savings rather than using the income that's coming, it's just a poor logical decision. And the planet's going to be fine. There's no real such thing as pollution. I mean, the planet will work out. We might die. A lot of the animals that exist at the moment might die in the current configuration. But all that really happen is that humans are reorganizing the molecules of the world to make it less optimal for the current living creatures. The planet's going to carry on going through space at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. And the molecules will reorganize themselves. They might not be life-supporting for the future of all humans and all the life, which is kind of the challenge. But the real question would be, for me, okay, it makes no sense logically to carry on building our entire industry and our entire operation on using up our savings,
Mm.
irrespective of the consequence to climate change. Just like, okay, I understand what you're saying, that climate change isn't really a big thing, and I understand that pollution is manageable, but why, when we could live off our income, are we living off our savings? That would be my
Mm.
perspective. So it's
Mm.
like the
Mm.
future is to live off our energy income. That's the future. That's what we visualize. As you say, energy will be free. When we're living off our energy income, energy is free. So we need to create
Mm.
that first in our mind, first in your mind and my mind and the individual's mind, and then get to the people like the UN delegate, the negotiator, get that into his mind, so he's always thinking, actually, you know what, it's not your way or my way, it's like the obvious, the logical, it's inevitable that we will be living off our income in the future.
Mm.
Well, because
Mm.
otherwise we die, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, I love us and I love our planet, and I know, even the people that are in Parliament, as confused as I believe they are,
Yeah,
they love
I love
they
them.
love the planet too,
Yeah.
and it's the irony of it all. They don't mean to be uh, doing something really against the planet. They genuinely believe that the planet's going to be okay, and that's probably a good thing in some ways. But I'm really connected with the fact that I don't want to be resisting them, but I do want to be able to align where the real energies are, and I believe the real energy is in the outliers. You know, it's where the holes of power are not, you know, that's a dense energy, it's a bottleneck, and the outliers are where it's really happening, and the people will make it happen, and I actually think that's really appropriate. I'm okay with that, you know?
Yeah. The power, John Lennon said this, and I think he's actually right on lots of things, but I think he's almost right on this. He's not quite right. When he's talking about power to the people, I think power is already in the people.
Yeah.
We already have the power, we're just not aware of it yet. We have the power. If you think about it, nothing can stand against an idea whose time has come.
That's right.
So all we need to do is say, just that simple thing, say, yeah, I understand that, but like, that was our savings account. We've kind of used up years, millions of years of the work, the Earth's work and the universe's work in putting together these savings. You know, it will, whether or not we increase the technology, whether or not we reduce the pollution, whether or not we limit the climate change, all these things are irrelevant. All we need to do is say, look, guys, let's use our metaphysical ingenuity, our resources, to start building a world where we live on our income, our energy income, and not our savings. Job done. And if we do that, and we sow those seeds, then we can do it in a harmony where the politicians and us can all be working together to create this thing, right?
Yeah, and Tom, by energy income, you just mean my daily, like if it's wave energy, I'm using the energy of that day's waves. If it's geothermal energy, I'm just using the energy of that day's geothermal and that day's sun.
That day's sun. That's right. I mean, of course, you could save it. You can design technology to live it. But the point is, we are living on our. We need to stop. Let's say you're in a boat, right? And you need fuel to drive the motor of the boat. Well, you could technically start burning the hull of the ship in order to actually fuel the boat. But that's effectively what we do when we use fossil fuels. It's not because of the pollution it's the problem, because the Earth can take care of that. It's not because of the climate change, because again it will adjust and maybe we will die, but microbes will survive and all that stuff. It's just because it makes no sense. When we've got an incredible amount of income, energy terms, with the sun and the thermal energy, as you say, the two fundamental sources of energy, sun's energy and all the things that come as a result of that, and the internal heat energy of the planet. Now you could even say that the heat energy of the planet isn't really income. You could say that eventually, you could even say, well, the sun's energy isn't really, because the sun's going to eventually run out. But, you know, within the lifetime of the Earth, the sun's going to be fine. So I guess it would say, look, okay, let's devote every single spare second we've got to encouraging people, encouraging the outliers, encouraging the scientists, encouraging the crazy people to tinker away, and like Edison, all these people, just come up with ways to utilize the daily supply. You know, in biblical terms, it's like, give us this day our daily bread, right? You know, we've got enough, we've got everything we need, but we're just not using it. And it's like, oh, what are we doing? It's crazy. But perfect for now, given the level of thinking we've got, given the level of awareness that somehow we've contributed to. We've got the world that we have created by our combined collective consciousness. So we do individually what we can by focusing on what we want and by just talking about it with the inevitability and the faith and purpose that it's going to happen. You know, I love the idea of the kind of the Wattles teaching. He's talking mainly about yourself and the wealth for yourself, but really, if we all create reasonable wealth for ourselves out of giving more value, out of the creative plane, all that sort of stuff, we will create wealth. This guy was talking about it, the CIA guy. He's talking about, you know, there is no problem with it. You can have infinite wealth. You really can, because we've got literally an infinite supply of energy coming to us all the time. And you know, that's without even harnessing the technology or developing the technology to go and travel to other stars. And people say that's crazy. Well, the moon was crazy at one time, right?
For sure. Yeah, no, I got today a sense, Tom, that we'll finish up.
Yeah.
But I just did get a sense that wanting for others what I want for myself, as you want, like, really as you want for others, like this whole idea is like, it comes from I wish those beautiful activists and those politicians,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
some of
You
them
want
are
them
really beautiful too in my mind, but there's those people without having, they're in this war zone and with each other and, you know, inside their own worlds, and I wouldn't wish that for them, you know, and I don't wish it for me. And so what I wish is that they are free, and they're free in their minds to get on with their real work, which is to know the solution, because they are visionary people. That's why they're there. They've got the vision. That's why they believe in it. They just have what appears to be all this lead weight, you know, blocking them and stuff in various ways, you know. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So it's just natural that you just want it for them, and then just wanting free energy for the world, you know, is the outcome, really, isn't it? It's
if we crack energy,
you just want that, and it propels you forward somehow by wanting that for others. It gives you a propulsion that you can go forward and make a step in if you want to.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm trying to do is create metaphysical artifacts that make it easier for us to get to where we all want to be. And one of them
That's right.
So that's what we're doing.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. And the idea of like taking these ideas, like to want for everyone what you want for yourself, not just the fact that I want them to be successful and to have the same joy and all that sort of stuff, but the things that I like, that I really feel that I've been part of a solution and that I've been part of bringing greater life to all, I want everyone to be able to feel that as well. So, you know, it's our job.
Thank you.
Our job is to just carry on doing what we're doing, and but at the same time using our metaphysical powers, our intentions, to want for other people what we want for ourselves, and then we just repeat this cycle, and we extend our influence marginally, gradually, little by little, knowing that it's inevitable gives us that faith, right? That's if something's inevitable, you've got steady faith. You just know it's going to happen. All you're not sure about is the timescale. I think it's going to be so much sooner. It's going to be by 2030, by 15, 16 years time, we're going to be so far removed from this place. It's
really fast. Yeah. It's really fast. I just know it too.
Well, just think what's happened in the last few months of us sort of being together, and what we've created in the communities now. The level of awareness and thinking and combined love for each other is astonishing. Anyway, I'm going to let you go because I'm getting excited, and we'll get more excited than you won't be able to sleep.
I'm so tired. Thanks, Tom. Good night, everybody. Thanks so much. Okay. Bye.